Today we will be exploring the intersection between the breath and the core, and as we allow those two to interact, it will kind of be a dance between the breath and the core. So that's our focus today. Please spread out your blanket if you haven't already. We need either a bolster for a restorative pose at the end, or a makeshift bolster with 2 blocks and 2 blankets. A strap will be helpful if in the restorative pose that we've been doing the past few weeks, if it's been hard to bend the bottom knee and grab the bottom leg, make sure you have a strap or a scarf, because I want everyone to be able to experience that. So let's begin. Turn to your right and make your way onto your back, and there's no need to rush if you're still finding props. And let your body start to arrive. Feel the support of the earth beneath you. And see if you can allow the body to relax and soften. You're welcome to close the eyes if that helps you relax here. And experiment with closing the mouth and gently resting the tongue on the roof of the mouth. Sometimes swallowing can help create a seal that allows the tongue to effortlessly stay in its resting spot, and the jaw should be relaxed. There's a little gap between the teeth. The tongue keeps the mouth closed, not the big chewing muscles. Begin to notice your breath. And if it feels hard to notice the breath, that's often a signal that there's probably a lot going on in your day or in your mind, and that's okay. Just be with that and be patient. And then set the goal to keep trying and keep focusing, letting the chatter of the mind get quieter, as if it's like a TV turned on in another room and you're not even paying attention to what it's saying. Start to notice where the breath naturally travels. Maybe it's the chest or the ribs or the belly. Bring your hands to the belly. Let the elbows be soft and supported by the earth so the arms can be really relaxed. And without any strain, notice if you can start to allow the breath to fill the belly naturally. You don't want this to feel like effort, and just a natural expanding and then contracting. And keeping your hands where they are and keeping awareness on the breath, bend the knees and glide the heels in, letting the soles of the feet rest on the ground. And notice if the pelvis and the spine change slightly after doing that action. You can let the feet come a little wider, knock the knees in, and allow the spine to elongate. And if you're not sure how to do that, I really enjoy rocking the pelvis gently forward and gently back, and noticing the space when it feels almost like my chin tucks and my neck lengthens. The cervical vertebra mirror the lumbar vertebra, so if the low back lengthens, then the neck lengthens. Check in with the mudra of the mouth, the tongue gently resting on the roof. It's called Kachari Mudra. And imagine as the tongue gently presses against the soft palate that the sinuses are opening and you can take a fuller, spacious breath effortlessly. If you're still rocking the pelvis, find the place where the neck lengthens and pause there and notice underneath the hands. If you can feel in that moment just a little bit of brightness or work that naturally happens. And again, it should feel so gentle, almost like your core just like smiled. And then without arching the back at all, notice the spaciousness of your next inhale. And to prevent the low back from arching, it takes subtle work of the core. So you might feel like the gentlest constriction of the breath, and it shouldn't feel like tight or limiting, but just that the breath and the core are meeting each other. For every bit of effort that the breath pushes out, the core gently pushes in so they start to dance. When the belly still expands, it's just a little slower and gentler and more controlled. Take a few more breaths to play with that. And this is going to be the theme for our class today, and I find it easiest to feel on the inhale, so your whole focus can be on the inhale. What I'll guide you to notice, if you feel ready to pay attention to the exhale, is the exact opposite occurs. As the abdomen starts to contract, your core slows down that action, so it contracts slower and smoother and more evenly. So if the belly's expanding, the core resists the expansion. And if the belly is contracting, the core resists that contraction. And again, it shouldn't feel tight, it shouldn't feel strict, it should just feel conscious. You might even find that it's slightly energizing. And then take a moment to relax completely. Move the hands from the belly. If it's comfortable, keep the legs where they are, or you can choose to stretch them out in a mini savasana and just breathe freely, cleaning the slate, letting everything go for a moment. And if you're following along with the musical playlist, you can hit play on the first track. We'll be playing with a movement from last week's class. First, we'll explore it dynamically, and then we'll bring in the dance with the breath to, as we hold the poses, just feeling how the inhale and exhale differ in each pose. So we'll begin by stretching the arms overhead. Let the next couple of breaths flow into and out of the body. See if you can neutralize the pelvis and spine just like you did in the last pose, finding that little bit of constriction and support. And then as you inhale, notice how that constriction slows down the expansion of the belly three-dimensionally, not just forward, but to the sides and to the back. And then also slows down the constriction of the exhalation. And the next time you inhale, start to glide the elbows and knees in, rolling onto the left side into the fetal position. And then use your next exhale to roll onto the back, spreading out, reaching out. Inhale to the other side, curling up. Then exhale to the center. And we'll take a few of these dynamic rolls, just starting to awaken some more sensation in the body. And imagine the body not completely solid, so it's almost like as you open into that X, you're melting and puddling out, and there's no dramatic moment when the arm lands because it's so gradual. And the next time you roll onto the left side, pause there. And let's take a couple of breaths in this same pose just so you can feel that little bit of, we call it intra-abdominal pressure that we've been building as our core and our breath dance. And so as you inhale, gently limit the expansion. And notice that sense of pressure in your center. Should feel light and bright and not intense. And then as you exhale, limit the speed at which the belly pulls in. As you inhale, limit the speed at which the belly pulls out, pushes out rather. Whenever you're ready on an exhale, open up to the X, pause in your X and take a couple of breaths there, noticing the same thing. At first, it's going to be most useful to have the pelvis and spine neutral. Eventually, it's totally fine to explore different spinal movements, but at first we really need to do this to turn on the core. And there's no rush here, but whenever you're ready, use your inhale to roll onto the right side, taking a couple of breaths to explore the dance between the breath and the core. Your next exhale, open to the X, and now I'll leave it up to you. Take a couple more to each side, and if you want to move slow and take a couple of breaths, that's fine. If you want to move a little faster like we did in the first round, that's fine. I want you to feel what the body's craving. And one's not better than the other. Listening and responding to what your constitution's asking for, from what the day has demanded of you, and being sensitive, that is the best option. We'll eventually meet on the left side. You don't have to rush to get there. The next time you're on the left side, we'll add on our side lying Urdhva Chandrasana. So kick the bottom leg forward, the left leg, as if the floor is in front of you. Flex the left foot and reach the left fingertips in the space in front of the face. With your next exhale, slowly push into the invisible floor, letting the rest of the body start to open and stack. And then inhale back into the fetal position. We're going to do that a couple of times. We'll take the exhale into our side lying Urdhva Chandrasana. And then inhale to the fetal position. And then this is the most challenging action we've done so far. So if you don't feel up for holding it, that's okay. But open the door to taking a couple of breaths in Urdhva Chandrasana, noticing that intra-abdominal pressure. And notice if the inhale lets this pose feel lighter, because it is challenging. Notice if you can use that building of pressure at the center to take the weight out of the limbs. And then let's all inhale into the fetal position. Exhale to the X, and take an extra pause at center. Relax, soften the elbows. And then we'll go through that same process on the other side. So with your next inhale, roll over to the right hand side. Kick the right leg forward, flexing the right foot. Reach the right arm forward. And as you're ready, use your exhale to push into the invisible floor in front of you to slowly open, and feel how the arm and leg are connected to the core. It doesn't matter how far they open as long as they feel supported. And then inhale into your fetal position. Exhale, side lying Urdhva Chandrasana. And whenever you feel ready to explore taking a couple breaths in the Urdhva Chandrasana, you're welcome to, unless that top leg doesn't feel supported, right? If it's too much, then just stay to the exhale to open and inhale to fetal position. Whenever you'd like to come onto the back, you're welcome to, but there's no rush. And I want to give you just one more minute on your own. And your options are to just roll out from fetal position to X, holding anywhere and breathing. Option to add on the Urdhva Chandrasana. Or if there's anything else that the body is craving, maybe some effortless rolls from side to side, just take one more minute to be present in the body. And if you're not sure what to do, just stick to what we were doing together. That's totally fine. Can take a mini savasana. Sometimes when you're not sure, stillness is a nice option. And after you've balanced out sides without rushing, we'll meet on the back. Open the arms to a gentle T, cross the left leg over the right, and start to make some big circles with the knees, just massaging out the low back and massaging out the hips. Notice how the core has to work to lift and move the knees here, and then start to explore the building of pressure on the inhale, and notice if it makes it a little easier to lift the legs and support the hips. And then open the feet to a wide V and gently shake out the legs. Almost imagine like you're just like in a bumpy car and it's kind of like a kind of vibration. And then switch the cross of the legs and let's go the other way. And just notice the spiral line of the body from the outer right thigh up to the right hip. And notice how that opposes to the left shoulder. The left shoulder has to work a little harder as the right hip lifts. Check in with your Khetri Mudra. Close the mouth, tongue to roof of mouth, swallow. And then experiment with building some intra-abdominal pressure by inhaling and restricting the expansion of the breath in all directions. And notice if that changes how the hips feel here. And then open the feet to a V and shake out the legs. Roll to the left side, gently press up, making your way to table. Bring the knees underneath you and then paw your way back onto the center of your mat. If you're following along with the music, you can hit play on the first, go to the second track. If you'd like a sip of water, you're welcome to grab a sip of water now. Okay. And when you're ready, let's meet in tabletop. Tuck the toes under and start to circle the hips around the heels, just beginning to stretch the feet. And if you feel sensitivity in your big toes especially, I feel like those joints can be sensitive. Without moving the toes, imagine you're trying to point them. And so you'll start to feel a pressure building between the toes and the floor, and that will actually activate the muscles in the transverse arch of the foot and hopefully provide some more support for that joint. Start to circle in the opposite direction. And then come back to center. Find equal weight in all four of your paws. And then find your neutral spine. So just like we did on the back, rock pelvis forward, rock pelvis back. You know you can't feel the feedback of the floor, so you actually have to drop into the sensation of the spine and try to notice, see if you can visualize the shape of the spine. Let the movements get smaller and smaller. And try to find the place where there's that brightness of the deep low abdominals gently lifting the front of the pelvis so it's neutral and the spine is long. This was the moment where the back of the neck lengthened when you're on your back. Maintaining this neutral, start to play with the breath. So as you inhale, bring your awareness to the waistband of the pants. And imagine the waistband expanding in all directions. So that includes the sides and the back. And then slow down and start to regulate that expansion. And so there's still movement, you're still breathing into the belly, but you're controlling it with the strength of your core. And it should feel like there's a gentle pressure and support building. The next time you inhale, let's use that strength to glide the left foot back. And hopefully it feels pretty light and effortless because you've got that intra-abdominal pressure. Try it a couple of times. So exhale, bring the knee back in. And inhale, first find the pressure and then let the leg effortlessly float back. Take a couple on your own. The next time the leg floats back, shift the weight from shoulder to shoulder just to relax the wrists a little bit and make sure that you're getting springy in the elbows. Bring a little extra weight to the pinky side of the hands, just making sure there's no pressure in the hands that's uncomfortable for any of the knuckles. Tuck the left toes under and glide the right knee a few inches forward so it's forward of the hip. Flatten the right foot and push down into the right foot, and notice how the muscles in the right leg engage when you do that. Release and engage, and do that a couple of times and see if you can feel how that action unites into the core. You can even start to match it with the breath, noticing how that extra work of the core makes it a little easier to restrict the expansion as you inhale. The next time you create that pressure, push down so much with the right leg that the left leg floats. Prevent the pelvis from tipping forward and start to lift the left leg a couple of times to turn on the glutes. Nothing in the body should move except the left leg, and it's okay if it's very small. Small and steady is what we're going for here. Warmth should be building in the right leg. That's how you know you're doing it right. And we're going to do something really enjoyable for that right leg in one moment. So set the left toes down. Shift the weight into the left hand. Draw a big circle. Right hand comes forward, up, and back, starting to open up through the right side of the body. Pause at the top and try to notice how spiraling to the right is opening up that outer right hip. And then allow the circling of the hand to continue. Plant the right hand down and use your next inhale to glide the right leg back into an effortless plank. Try to feel how that intra-abdominal pressure can support you in this strengthening pose. And we'll do that one more time. So lower both knees into tabletop. Use your next inhale to glide the left foot back. And then glide the right knee forward just a little bit. Push down into the right shin and start to float the left leg, keeping the pelvis neutral. Take a couple of those pulses. And then bring the left toes down. Shift the weight into the left side of the body and then circle that satisfying opening to the right, nice and slow. And then start to visualize yourself in that plank, strong and light and fully supported as the right hand plants. Glide the right foot back. Keep the pelvis neutral and just notice how the breath interacts with the core and the rest of the pose. Lower the knees. Glide the left foot back, glide the right knee back. We're not going to do the whole sequence this time. Just bring the right knee behind the left, just like what we did on our backs. before, so kind of like our eagle legs. And then lower onto the forearms, which should feel really nice, giving your wrists a break here. Start to circle the hips. Be really gentle so that the knees are happy here, but try to massage out the hips as well as the shoulders as you make some gentle circles. And then uncross the leg, press the hips to the heels, melt the forehead, palms face up. Bring the thighs together. Notice how that restricts the expansion of the belly. And take a few breaths here to just play with noticing that slow and steady expansion on the inhale and how your core can actually help you breathe more smoothly. You might feel the breath slowing down. And something I really love about building intra-abdominal pressure is I can notice how superficial muscles can relax. So you might notice the neck and shoulders softening or anywhere that you hold tension. Then push down into the shins. Notice what that does for the rest of the body and slowly start to stack one vertebra at a time, coming all the way up to a high kneel. Give yourself a big hug with the right arm on top. And then notice the sensation of the shoulder girdle landing on the rib cage. So try to relax the arms. Make sure the neck and shoulders feel spacious, so you can even wiggle a little bit. Sometimes when we give ourselves a hug here, the shoulders rise up, so try to resist that and find a little more space. And then let's do a little test. From here, start to bring I'll turn so you can see me, the backs of the forearms together, and notice if that rising up starts to happen through the shoulders. And if it does happen, go back to the hug. Right? But if it feels good, you can keep backs of hands together or bring the palms together for our eagle arms. So we've got 3 different options, and just make sure that the shoulders are on the rib cage for whatever option you've chosen. From here, bring the hips back down and start to make some big circles, rotating the weight around the pelvis. So let the pelvis tilt to the right and then back and then left and then forward. And I was going to do the other side after the second side of the sequence, but that seems mean to make you wait that long, so we can do the other side now. Let's float up to the high kneel. Give yourself a hug with the opposite arm on top, and then same idea, let the shoulders land on the rib cage, let yourself relax. Stay right there or play with bringing the backs of the forearms together, and then notice if there's that tendency for the shoulders to hike up. If there is, go back to the hug. If there's not, you can play with backs of hands together or palms together. And then bring the hips back down, and whatever your arm orientation is, start to gently circle the weight around on the pelvis and try going the opposite direction that you did before. And if you can't remember, it's the opposite of whatever you just naturally started doing without thinking about it. And you can start to get a little dramatic here as the pelvis rotates. If you want to allow the spine to follow, that's absolutely fine. So you get a little side bend, a little forward fold, a little back bend. Keep the arms pretty relaxed here. We don't want to create any tension in the shoulders. And then float up to a high kneel. Relax the arms down and just pause for one moment here, giving your hips some space, giving your shoulders some space before we return to tabletop. You can explore the dance between the breath and the core with that gentle control. And then make your way back down to tabletop. And now we'll neutralize the pelvis once again. Find your inhale, building that pressure, and then start to glide the right foot back. Bring the right knee in, and then use your next inhale once again to glide the right foot back. This time, slide the left knee forward, push down into the left shin. You should feel the left leg working a lot to support you here. And then slowly lift the right leg, making sure the pelvis doesn't tip. You shouldn't feel anything in your low back here. It should all be in the glutes. Take a couple of pulses with the right leg. It doesn't have to lift high. And then set the right toes down, tuck the right toes under, shift the weight into the right hand, big circle, left hand forward, up and back. Pause at the top, breathing into the left side. Push down into the left shin a little extra and see if that helps you feel more united through that spiral line. And then complete the circle back and down as the left hand plants. Glide the left foot back. Take your inhale to feel really strong and pressurized in plank. And then we'll repeat that. So drop the knees, walk them in a little so you're in an even tabletop. Use your next inhale to glide the right foot back and take your pulses without tipping the pelvis. Bring the toes down, shift the weight to the right, big circle with the left arm. Connect with your breath flow, let it be even and steady. And then go right into that weightless plank. If you want to hold the plank a little longer, you're welcome to, but you don't have to. You can always lower the knees back to table. And then let's all lower the knees. We'll start that sequence, but we'll take it into our counter pose. So glide the right leg back, glide the left knee forward, push down into the left knee, feel the strength in the left leg, but then tuck the right knee behind the left, crossing the legs, lower onto the forearms and start to roll the hips around so you get that nice massage, opening up the outside of the left hip. Let this also be a massage for the shoulders. Stay connected to the breath. Check in. Are you still able to breathe through the nose? And then come up to table, uncross the legs, and squeeze the thighs together as you press the hips back, melting into Bhaktasana with that little pressurized system between the thighs and the belly, and bring extra attention to the low back and allowing that space to open with the breath. And then feel that sense of slowing down the three-dimensional expansion as you inhale. Notice how the core can brighten and the breath can deepen. The diaphragm actually gets stronger, which makes breathing more effortless. Tuck the toes under, start to walk the hands in, lift the knees, and just like we did earlier, imagine you're pointing your feet so that the muscles in the toes and the transverse arch of the ball of the foot engage, right? So instead of just sinking into the toe joint, you're actively resisting that sinking, and feel the feet strengthen. And then slowly start to lift the hips, let the heels melt towards the earth. Deep bend in the knees, no tension here. And sway from side to side. I'm noticing that I want to walk my feet out a little as I do that, so give yourself permission to adjust where the feet are. Nice, Roseanne, that looks so fluid. Let the muscles on the back of the neck lengthen. And then it's up to you how you come up. Come up in a way that feels supported. That might mean a neutral spine. I'm going to bend my knees really deeply and sink my hips towards my heels, and then push my hips forward to effortlessly stack the spine one vertebra at a time. And just pause at the top, adjust the feet, relax the shoulders, and see if you can allow the breath to dance with the core from this standing position. Remember, finding that neutral pelvis is really going to help. Option to grab a sip of water if you would like. And we can go to our third track. Turn to face me. And we'll continue with the sequence from last week, but we'll be adding in the option to hold those poses for a couple of breaths so you get to feel the difference between the inhale and the exhale. So let the feet go a little wider than the hips and use your next exhale to start to reach out and lengthen. Find your neutral pelvis and notice how the core brightens automatically when you do that. With your next inhale, turn the feet to the right, spiral to the right, and let the right arm sweep back for your discus thrower. And then exhale to your X. Next inhale, spiral to the left for discus thrower on the left. And start to play between these three shapes. Just one breath per pose. Try to feel the movement originating at the feet and notice how the other joints can effortlessly follow, and it doesn't matter how far you go. It's like just an allowing. And then the cherry on top is that back arm just gently flowing backward with the momentum of the spiral. The next time you're at the X, pause there, melt the arms down, close the eyes if that feels comfortable, or just shift your gaze internally to your heart. Bend the knees a little bit and take a couple of your pressurized breaths. Okay, now you can do it the same way once again, or try holding those poses for a couple of breaths so you can breathe into them and feel that pressure build. So with your next exhale, reach out, move at your own pace, or stay here with me and take a couple of breaths and notice that sense as you restrict the three-dimensional expansion of the breath, feeling really strong and supported from your center. Bend the elbows a little bit so there's no stress in the shoulders. Use your next inhale to spiral over to the right, and option to hold for a couple of breaths. And see if you can use the breath to feel lighter and more supported. Holding poses is harder, but the breath can make it effortless. Next, exhale back to center, and then let's inhale right away over to the other side. And I'll give you 1 minute to play on your own, and you can go fast, you can take a couple of breaths, you can take several breaths, whatever the body is starting to crave. And if you are holding poses, feel free to adapt and modify. Maybe you want to hinge deeper and let the spine flex more. It's not that deeper is better, but the body just might be craving that expression. Nice. I see a lot of you really bending into the back knee. It looks like there's a lot of awareness and integration between both legs and the core. That's so awesome. Start to notice the back toe pointing into the ground, just like we practice in a few different positions. And see if that stimulates that back leg and helps it interact more with the core. And the next time you're in X, melt the body, melt the shoulders down. Pause for a moment at center and start to heel toe the feet in underneath the body. I'm going to steal this one from you, Colin. Start to circle the weight around the feet. Notice the shifting from the toes, to the outer edge, to the heel, to the other outer edge. And then the next time the weight starts to shift into the right foot, hover the left foot, find your neutral pelvis, and then try that same thing just on one foot. See if you can use your intra-abdominal pressure to stabilize here. So, especially as you inhale and you restrict that expansion, notice if that helps you find a little bit steadier balance. And then bring the left foot down and start to circle in the opposite direction. And then the next time the weight starts to transfer over into the left foot, gently start to lift the right foot, staying neutral with rib cage and pelvis, and then keep those circles going on the one foot. And then step the right foot out pretty generously. Imagine you're doing chair just with your right leg. So let the hips crease, let the knee bend, but keep the weight back in the hips, right? So there's no pressure in the front of the knee. Start to glide the left leg behind you and spiral the left arm and spine towards the right leg for our curtsy. You can play with bending the knees if that feels good. And then shift the weight into the right foot. Push down and inhale up into a weightless tree. If it's so weightless, you can even keep the left foot hovering instead of resting it on the leg. And then step the foot out. We'll curtsy the other way. So imagine chair pose with the left leg, and then start to glide the right leg back as you spiral to the right. So the heart is facing down and to the left, sorry. And then as you're ready, shift the weight into the left foot, push down into the left foot to float into tree. It's fine for the foot to rest, but notice if you want to feel more expansive and light there. Start to play with those shapes on your own. So going from the curtsy to the tree. You can move quickly, or you can start to breathe in each pose. Just noticing how that pressure on the inhale lets the limbs feel really light. You might even feel like, oh, I want to lift more. And you can always find a drishti, a steady gaze point as you play here. The next time, the right leg is your foundation, so the front of the curtsy. Let's all either meet there, or let's meet there. So curtsy with the right leg forward. Oh, whoa, cool, Konalani, you were all like on the same leg. It was beautiful. This might have to be part of our dance. So shift the weight into the right leg. Option to go into tree, or option to sweep the left leg on top. We've been doing a lot to get ready for eagle pose. So the thighs are crossed. You don't have to worry about tucking the foot behind. At first, just let the thighs stack and point the knees forward. Whatever leg is on top, that arm's going to be on the bottom. So give yourself a hug with the right arm on top. Stay right here. Or you can play with backs of hands or fronts of hands like you did before. Take an inhale, feel that pressurized system, and notice if that strength allows you to bounce a little bit, keeping the weight in the heel, no pressure in that front knee. Next time you start to lengthen upwards, shift the left leg out. Bend the left knee so the right leg gets some relief and stretch. And then start to make some circles with the arm. We kind of want a dual massage here, a little massaging through the inner thigh of the right leg as we tip forward and back, and a little massaging of the spine and the shoulders in our eagle arms. You can always stay over that left leg and just rock forward and back. That's a really nice adductor stretch for the right leg. You can also circle in the opposite direction. We'll just take one more moment. And then swoop your arms open, which should feel really nice and spacious. Shift your weight into your left leg and start to glide your right leg behind for your curtsy. The body spirals to the left. And then shift the weight forward. Of course, always option for tree pose because eagle is a really challenging pose. If you want to go for eagle, stay low in the squat. Sweep the right leg around. First round, we're not going to tuck. Give yourself a big hug, this time with the left arm on top. Stay right here, or backs of hands, fronts of hands, it's up to you. Come into the breath. Rock the weight into the heel, keeping the big toe down, and then let yourself pulse a little bit with the breath. Whenever you feel ready, keep the arms bound, but step the right foot out, bend the right knee. It should feel so spacious in that left leg. And then draw your circles or just gently rock forward and back. Both are really nice. I couldn't decide which one I wanted to teach, so you have to choose for yourself. Okay, we're going to do that one more time. You can skip anything, you can add anything on. If you've had enough, you want a more restorative moment here, you can bend over the right leg and take some rocks. Otherwise, swoop your arms open, glide your left leg back for your curtsy. And then whenever you're ready, wrap your left leg around. And this time, if you want to, you can tuck the left toes behind the calf, but only if the knees can stay forward, right? And then option to add on your arms. Take your time, but whenever you feel ready, step the left leg out. If you are bent over the right leg, you can now walk your hands over to the left leg, bend the left knee to just do whatever restorative thing you did on the first side, on the second side. If you went for eagle, I'll talk you through eagle on the second side. So bend the left knee, start to glide the right leg back for your curtsy. Shift the weight into the left foot and then sweep the right leg all the way around. Option for the tucking of the toes, but you don't want your body to go all askew. So it might be better to leave the foot free so the hips and knees point forward. Find your favorite arms, this time the left arm's on top. And then whenever you feel ready, swoop the right leg open and take whatever counter pose. If you opted out of the second round of eagle, you're welcome to keep exploring your standing forward fold. You can come down to malasana. We are making our way towards our restorative pose on the ground, so you can make your way all the way to the ground, that's fine. If you're still standing, let's meet in standing straddle with knees deeply bent and spine draping towards the earth. Let yourself gently sway from side to side if you want to extend one leg at a time, but just try to press evenly through that whole foot so you feel length on the inside and the outside of the leg and the arch stays lifted. And then gingerly start to bend one knee, lowering it to the earth, and then the other knee, so we can come to kneeling. You can go to the next track. Keep the feet together, but let the knees go wide. Give yourself a big hug. Doesn't matter what arm's on top, we'll have time to swap it out. And moving twice as slow, let's return to that nice circular movement from earlier in class. And you really want to feel the arms and the shoulders a part of the body. So if you feel them like dripping off of the rib cage, see if the rib cage can rise up to meet and support them. Connect with the breath. And notice how that building of that gentle pressure can help any gripping muscles ungrip. Next time you're up at the top, swoop the arms wide and then switch the cross of the arms and start to circle the opposite direction. Try to direct the breath into any areas of the back that might feel tense or sore. A lot of times our sore spots are our blind spots. They're the areas we don't feel. And that's why we create bad patterns that lead to pain. And so just imagine shining all the light of your awareness in anywhere sore. It doesn't just have to be your back. And let your body adapt and change to find a more supportive way to be. And the next time you come to center, pause there. Palms faced up. Let the hands rest in the lap. Just let yourself be. Imagine your awareness filling the space of the hands. And just totally melt out of the mind. Observe the breath through the nose. We can pause our music, and we're heading into the restorative pose. Feel free to grab a sip of water. Feel free to start layering up or dimming the lights or doing any of the things that will help make this as restorative as possible. This is the same pose that we've done the past 2 weeks. It is my new favorite pose. You will need a bolster. Not everyone has bolsters, so what I like to do is use 2 blocks in a straight line and then 2 pretty thick, generous blankets to make them nice and cushy. And then the reason we need a strap is I'm going to turn, we're going to be facing each other, but this part is hard to see. I've been giving the option to reach back for the bottom foot, and it really adds a lot to the pose. And so I want everyone to be able to try that without any strain. So the strap is going to go around the bottom foot, and I'll talk you through this in a moment, but I just want you to see it so that wherever the knee bend is, you can ever so gently make a connection between the hand and the foot. So set up your bolster to your right hand side, sit in the middle of your blanket, and make sure your strap is nearby. Okay. Sit the hips to the right of the heels, and then bring the right thigh up to meet the base of your prop. So the right knee should be pointed forward ahead of you, and then stagger the legs, but make sure the left knee feels really supported here. So it might even be good to use your extra blanket underneath you to support that knee so it doesn't feel like there's any rotation in that knee. That's really important. And before we go anywhere, let's set up the strap. So bring the strap around the left foot. I like it just above the knuckles at the base of my toes, so it's on like the main body of my foot but towards the end. And then bring the strap behind you so it'll be easy to grab. Let it go all the way up the side of the bolster, and then you'll be able to grab it no matter where it is. So start to play with bringing the left heel in towards the left glute and pointing the left knee towards the opposite end of the mat. Gently start to rotate away from that leg and notice any sensation of the front of the left hip gently opening. Start to push the outer right leg down into the earth, and notice how that helps you sit a little higher. Take a couple of breaths, and don't forget that idea of restricting the expansion, which is a little easier in a twist because the twist naturally is restricting that expansion. Take a couple of the breaths that we've practiced. And then keeping that little bit of work in the right leg, start to drape the body onto the bolster and notice how the body is somewhat supported by the effort of the right leg. You can feel the connection of the right hip up into the obliques, the side core on the right side of the body. Bring the right ear to the mat, even if you're more flexible and you want to twist, it's just a little gentler. Start to wiggle around so the angle of the legs is comfortable and naturally adjusts. And then figure out what you want to do with your arms. You can hug your bolster or let them be kind of like goalposts. The right arm is going to be occupied in a second, but we'll start in this more symmetrical arm position. And play with restricting the expansion on the inhale. And notice how that sends the activity of this pose further down into the right hip. You might feel it more in the low back. And then eventually play with reaching the right hand towards the right foot, towards the left foot. And then you should find your strap. Just grab the strap wherever it is and inch your fingers down the strap just so that there's a little bit of tension. You don't want to force your left leg into a deep stretch. You just want to give it a little extra space. And then let the breath interact with the core, but also with whatever's happening in the left leg. Remember, our breath and our core both directly relate to the psoas, and this is an amazing opener for that left psoas. So see if you can play with the breath and the core to enhance the experience of the psoas here. And if that exploration is really fun and interesting, you're welcome to keep exploring it, but you're also welcome to start doing less and less. I'll take a couple more breaths. And to exit the pose, first release the strap. Bring the right arm underneath you and just take a moment at that starting position. And then gently glide the hands back so they're further back than the shoulders, and start to spring into the arms to gently rise up. Extend the legs in front of you and pause for a moment at center and just be aware of that right side of the body. There's a lot of opening in that bottom half of the right spiral line. And just for fun, you can allow the arms to float up. It can help you experience the right and left sides of the body in a different way. If the body's craving a little bit of wiggling, be free to do that. You can also melt over the legs or do anything that your body's asking for. And then we'll prepare for the other side. So you can take your bolster over to the left. Stagger the legs so the feet are over on the right side. And every time I do this, my ear gets sensitive by being pressed on the blocks, so I'm actually doing another fold in my blanket. Feel free to try that. Maybe I have sensitive ears, I don't know. If you use this strap, place it on the knuckles at the base of the toes on the right foot, and then bring the strap alongside the bolster so that it's really easy to get to. And then take a moment to play with bringing the heel towards the glute, the right heel towards the right glute. You don't want that to be forceful, but just notice what happens in the front of the right hip up into the core as you do that. I find it more comfortable to point my right knee towards the short edge of the mat on the right hand side, almost like it's in line with your bolster, and then keep the left thigh perpendicular. Start to push the outside of the left leg down so the left leg can strengthen and support you. Notice a sense of space up into the left hip and all the way up that left side of the body. And gently start to come into the twist, but keep that strength, right? Because that's going to keep everything integrated as it lengthens. So it's an eccentric contraction of the muscles on the left side of the body. And then as you feel ready, you can start to drape the body down, bringing left ear to the bolster and pausing to figure out the arms. You can hug your bolster, do whatever's supportive. Palms face down sometimes feels nice. And give yourself permission to adjust the placement of the pelvis and the placement of the side body so that this feels really relaxed. You could fall asleep here and in 3 hours wake up and not have anything feel weird in your body. And then start to use your breath flow. And notice how the consciousness that you've brought to your breath over this whole class, and that dance between the breath and the core, Notice how that transforms your experience in this pose. And let it allow that left side of the body to feel safe and supported so that it can open any amount that's useful and nourishing to the body. Eventually, you can allow yourself to reach that back arm, the left arm, down towards the foot until it finds the strap. And then you don't want to force the foot to do anything, but I find it nice to just gently walk my hand on the strap. So there's that little bit of like bowstringing action that creates just a little space in the right psoas. And then as you continue with the breath, notice how the breath interacts with the right psoas. And always give yourself permission to adjust and adapt and explore. And keep exploring for as long as you want. Also give yourself permission to relax. And it's valuable to stay conscious. And so you can just observe the breath. Keep the mouth closed, gentle pressure between tongue and roof of mouth, and swallow. And we'll just take a couple more breaths. And gently release the strap and let the right leg start to glide open. Eventually bring the hands, first just forearms alongside the bolster, relaxing for a moment, and then glide the palms back and start to push into the pinky side of the hand, climbing your way back up. Move the strap off to the side and allow the legs to extend. And you're welcome to stay at neutral, just observing the body, or make some little circles, fold forward, extend backward, anything that the body is craving in this moment. Our next adventure is Shavasana, and you can set up Shavasana however you want. I'm going to give one option for a little gentle inversion in Shavasana just because we've got this stack of blankets and blocks and our strap. So either ignore me and go into normal Shavasana, or if you would like to get the benefits of an inversion here, you'll bring the calves up to the top of, actually before you do that, place the strap around just the top blanket and make the loop big enough that you'll be able to fit your legs through. And then do what I was saying before, put the calves there and then tighten your strap. And this is really essential because it's going to allow the legs to relax completely and not roll off the sides of the bolster. And once you've got that situated, then you can lie back into your normal savasana, and then just scooch in towards the props enough that the legs feel really supported. You definitely want to feel like you can relax completely and there's no gripping. And take your time, treat yourself. And take a moment to find your neutral spine. Wiggle a little bit, let the hips come left and right, let the spine snake, let the back of the neck lengthen, and adjust the arms to a place that feels spacious yet very connected and integrated. If the legs are on the prop, make sure you can relax the legs completely, which might feel like they're subtly externally rotating, which is nice and fine. And we will relax completely, but take a moment first to just breathe in the way that we've been practicing. And then do less and less and less, which actually takes more focus, more subtle, deep focus. And notice if that ability to still interact with the breath and still ever so gently allow the core to play like 0.1% of your strength. Notice if that helps you feel beyond the breath. It's like you can start to access the experience of prana that lies in the background of each breath. And as we relax completely and let go of any control of breath or core, try to relax into that awareness of the prana flowing through you. It's sort of like when you're in nature and you see a really beautiful flower or tree and it's so mesmerizing. It's almost like you can see beyond its physical form, like it's just radiating energy. You're feeling the prana of that living expression. And you have that too. And so we can rest here, just immersed in our radiant selves for the next several minutes. Begin to interact with your breath and your core once again, gently, consciously. And notice how that interaction makes it more inviting to be in the body and bring gentle movement and start to head towards seated in whatever manner you enjoy, taking your time and taking the scenic route. And we'll eventually meet in our meditation seat, but please, no rushing. Like at the pool, like you can't run to your meditation seat. The lifeguard's gonna yell at you. And as you arrive, I invite you to notice the physical results of your practice. Without any judgment. It might take time to understand intra-abdominal breathing, but my experience is feel very supported and free of tension. So as you prepare for meditation, notice any sense of the physical body being ready, the seat feeling strong yet effortless, the spine feeling light and free. You can close the eyes or find a gaze point. Let your awareness ride effortlessly on the breath. We literally used the breath to interact with the center of our physical body. And so notice if that pathway is effortless for you to use the breath to feel inside and let all the awareness drop down into the heart or the navel. It's up to you. And let that area expand in all directions. And at this point, let go of any effort, any control, any core. You don't have to do any of that. Just let the breath be free and natural, and let your awareness flow down to heart or navel. And begin listening for or repeating the natural breath mantra, Hum Sa. And just like working with the deep core allowed superficial tightness to evaporate, let working with this deep mantra, let the tightness of the mind, the emotions melt away. Feel how this deep reservoir of support lets all of those superficial things, though they're important and real, let them go and dive into the vastness that's available to you and is you. Thank you all for practicing. Hope you feel supported. Namaste. So great to practice with you. Thanks for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week. Happy birthday, Mom. Roseanne's doing the birthday dance. Great to see you, Roseanne. Take care.